What's up, guys? Thank you so much for the continued support on the channel here. My last video, the Sabrina challenge, has been doing pretty well, so I'm really happy with how that's performing. And so I've decided to keep going with these gym leader challenges, and today I'm going to be doing Giovanni. Now, Giovanni's kind of in a weird spot because I already used Rhydon as one of my Pokemon in my Brock playthrough, but one thing that I really thought about is that Giovanni's ace isn't, or really shouldn't be, Rhydon. Giovanni's ace should be Persian, right? And I've never actually used Persian for anything. I've used Meowth to spam Payday and help me get TMs when I need to, get the coins and then buy the TMs in the game shop and sell it on. But I've never actually tried to use Persian as a Pokemon. And if you look at Persian stats, they're actually kind of mid. But the extremely high speed stat and the ability to learn some unique TMs is going to make Persian very helpful. I'm going to name my Meowth here Cash because honestly, if I'm stepping into the mind of a villain like Giovanni, that's the only thing that Meowth is worth to me. He's worth that straight cash money. I'm going to have my first battle here with Gary, and this is going to be pretty straightforward. Meowth is going to get same type attack bonus on Scratch, so normal type moves are super helpful, and in Gen 1, Slash is absolutely broken. So that's going to continue over into Persian as well. I decided to play Gen 1 specifically because I also have access here to Nidoron. So Nidoron I can get pretty early, and will turn into a Nidoking, which is one of Giovanni's Pokemon. Also really, really, really strong type, and gives me some really cool coverage, and it's not going to be weak to Misty unless I evolve all the way to Nidoking. So if I'm smart, I hold off on that evolution. One thing I did kind of forget about Nidoron is I thought that he learned Double Kick at a much lower level. So I was expecting going into this Brock battle that I would have Double Kick. Now, because this is Gen 1, Bite's not going to be super, or it's not even going to be neutral effective because it's still a normal type. So yes, I get the same type attack bonus, but I no longer have that neutral ability with it being dark like it is in Gen 2. So this is going to be really difficult for me to try and get through Geodude. Now, I try and get the flinches because at least with flinches, this can stop the potential for them stacking defense. But as you can see here, they just get way too much, way too many defense curls in. And it takes me a long time and a potion to finally clear through the Geodude. So I do still have Nidoron here, and all I have really is Leer, and I'm Tackle and Horn Attack. Now, Horn Attack's a pretty good attack, but it's not that great. And me being slower than the Onix is going to be a problem. So Horn Attack's great for early game damage for everything except for Brock. But because he's faster than me, if he so happens to choose Bide, I'm going to deal damage to him. And that's going to be problematic for me because if I get hit with another Bide, I get knocked out. Luckily, I do still have a potion. I can lower his defense with Leer. But that Bide just does so much damage, and I never know if he's going to use it. It's a complete total gamble. And just like that, Nidoron's taken out, and I'm stuck with using Bite. I only have 6 of those left, but the flinch and the speed becomes incredibly important. So this is going to be a theme throughout these videos, or throughout this video rather, is that speed kills. We saw how I went towards speed in my Sabrina run, and particularly with Persian's speed is going to allow me to deal with a lot of the problems that I normally wouldn't be able to deal with the slow ground types. After making my way through Mount Moon, I'm able to get into Cerulean City, and I'm able to catch myself a Sandshrew. Now, Sandshrew is going to be an essential part of my team because Sandslash also gets Slash. And if you're really not familiar with how broken the crit rate was in Gen 1, once Sandslash learned Slash, he only crits. I think maybe one time in the entire run did I not get a crit, which is disgustingly broken. It's supposed to modify, not break, the crit rate. Now that I have 3 members of my party, I'm going to go take on Gary. I'm still not quite highly leveled enough to deal with Misty because I only have 1 Pokemon that's, or I guess technically 2 with Nidorino, that aren't going to be impacted by it. But with Slash here, we do huge damage, right? We don't have to worry about the Pidgeotto because I have multiple Pokemon. I can switch, so I don't have to worry about the effect of Sand Attack. Now, I was a little surprised that Payday one-hit KO'd the Abra there, but I was trying to use Payday as much as possible to try and build up cash. I thought this was going to be a little bit harder and that I would need more Super Potions to take on Misty, but it turns out that Payday is so broken if you just spam it over and over and over again that I had so much money, I never struggled for anything in this entire run. Now, because I didn't level up my Nidorino using the Moonstone, even though I have access to it, I could have a Nidoking, but I didn't want to have two Pokemon who are going to be weak to Misty. So I start off here with Meowth, and I do just spam Paydays. Paydays isn't the most effective damage that I could be dealing, but again, I'm just trying to stack up as much money as possible. I do also have a Diglett here because I had gone ahead and moved to Vermilion City, but I'm not going to want to use Diglett. I'm not going to want to use Sandslash, and because I didn't evolve Nidorino, I'm not also weak to water. So I'm able to beat Misty on my first try. One thing that I thought was really cool about this run too that I probably haven't mentioned yet is that usually for some runs I'm going to have to use a Pokemon specifically for HMs. But with this run, every single Pokemon, everything that I need, because really you only need 3 HMs to clear Gen 1. That would be Cut, that would be Strength, that would be Surf. All of those can be learned by these Pokemon. Surf is going to be a huge part of Nidoking's kit. He could also learn Cut. I could put Cut on Diglett. I could put Cut on Sandslash. I have plenty of options to choose from, which is nice. And then lastly, Strength fits on a lot of Pokemon. Now, Strength does a decent amount of damage. It does 80 base damage and is a normal type. So Persian would be typically who I would put Strength on because of the same type attack bonus. But because Persian's able to learn special moves, which we'll see later, I don't really want to waste that move space. Now, Lieutenant Surge is going to be an absolute pushover. I have ground type moves, and that's why I've labeled my Dugtrio as cheat. Right? What does Giovanni do? He lies, he cheats, he steals, he does whatever he wants. By using Dig, I have so much speed that I'm able to outspeed even the Raichu and one-shot with Dig. And this is with the Dugtrio I caught in the wild in Diglett Tunnel at level 32. I didn't even have to train him. And I just caught him, immediately used him, and basically cheated the game. Now with Thunderbolt, I can teach this to either my Nidoking or my Persian. So I have flexibility here. Nidoking doesn't have as high special attack, or I guess in this instance just special, so I'll probably end up saving it for Persian later. I decided to rush to Lavender Town in an attempt to go to the Pokemon Tower here to get my hands on a Cubone, who's going to help round out my team. But one of the things I didn't realize in here is that you can't see any Pokemon without the Silph Scope. Now, I don't know if that's 100% sure because I didn't waste any more time, but it's weird that you can't even see wild Pokemon. I know you can't get past the Ghost of Marowak until you have that, but I thought it was weird that you couldn't even see the casual Ghastly without the Silph Scope. So, rather than deal with all this, I just decided, let's smack down my rival, let's move on, and let's come back when we have the Silph Scope so that I can easily obtain my Cubone and work towards getting the Marowak. Now, as we can see here, Cut is still very effective with Sandslash. It's not a bad move, it's just not a great move. And Slash is just absolutely broken. I'm going to bring out Persian here specifically to deal with War Total. As you can see, I have a Water-type move. That Water-type move is there intentionally, and I will add that Thunder-type move later. So every time that I face Erica, I'm always shocked at how many weaknesses her Pokemon really have because of that secondary Poison subtype. So Dig is going to be super effective. Ground-type moves are super effective against Poison. And so on her Victory Bell, on her Vileplume, a Dig is going to wipe them. Now all I need my Persian to do is simply knock out Tangela. Now I could go with more damaging moves, but Payday is going to make me more money. And again, if I want to buy TMs, that's the easiest way to do it. So while I don't one-shot the Vileplume, it's a little bit bulkier. It does get that Petal Dance off. I am able to two-shot it very easily with my outspeed. And honestly, not a very difficult battle at all, even though she should give me the hardest time. Now, before I can catch my Cubone, I have to beat the poser Giovanni that's been hanging out and giving Team Rocket a bad name and Criminality a bad name. And you're going to get full access to Ice Beam here. Ice Beam on Nidoking is going to be a ridiculous move. It's one of the ones that he can learn. He can do huge damage. I also love Thrash in Generation 1. The ability, it does so much damage. Like, yeah, the confusion's obnoxious, but I can just swap Pokemon out. I sweep through Giovanni with my eyes closed, I get my Silph Scope, and now it's time for me to go and pick up a Cubone. With Cubone acquired, I have now finished up what my team is going to be for this run. Now, I could give myself access to a Kangaskhan because that is a Pokemon that Giovanni has, but I'm actually planning on doing a normal type challenge at some point, and I want to make sure that I reserve as many Pokemon as I can for each one of these challenges. I don't want to overstep and use too many. Now, usually I do the gyms out of order because it makes sense to deal with Sabrina, but right now my strongest Pokemon is my Nidoking, and because of his poison subtype, he's extremely weak to Sabrina. So instead I'm going to take on Koga, because I can just use my cheat move, Dig, and do massive damage. If you didn't know, Dig is actually way better in Generation 1 because it has 100 base damage. So yes, it does take 2 turns, but the 100 base damage is huge. Marowak is also going to be able to do some pretty significant damage here, and this is because I was able to level it up. Now, I do switch back because I think that I'm going to have a better chance with my Doug Trio, and while I'm not going to get XP for that, it still doesn't matter. I still win the battle and earn my 5th badge. By this point in the game, the gym leaders haven't really posed much of a challenge, but because I specifically replaced Charmeleon with Meowth, this means that my rival will have access to my Blastoise, which is obviously one of my greatest weaknesses. I could have also gone with Venusaur, but I think in this generation that Blastoise is a little bit more powerful in the late game. Definitely Bulbasaur gives you a huge advantage early, but that ability to have like Hydro Pump and things like that against a team weak to water, it would absolutely wipe me out. I do stick with Marowak here. Because I was really trying to find a use case for Marowak. I really wanted to like Marowak. I like the design. I love the story with Cubone. Well, I mean, I shouldn't say I love the story with Cubone, right? It's tragic. But I think they do such a good job with that. And unfortunately, I just don't think that Marowak is that great of a Pokemon in Gen 1. But here I have access to Body Slam, I have access to Thunderbolt, I have access to Bubble Beam, and also Payday. And I'm just going to use Payday here to finish off Blastoise to make myself a little bit of extra cash. Now it's time again to teach this imposter Giovanni who the real boss is. And honestly, the way that I kind of viewed this in like my own personal headcanon while I was playing this is that I'm the version of Giovanni who originally became a gym leader, who clearly had all these things that made him great. And what really makes Giovanni great is his ability to kind of tame any Pokemon. If we think about how Rocket becomes a force, it's because Giovanni was first a gym leader, right? All Pokemon at any level obey him. And he's able to give those Pokemon to other trainers and make them obey them, right? Because he steals these Pokemon and Rocket's able to make those Pokemon work for them. So at some point, he was this really great influential person. And now he's kind of fallen into this shadow version of himself. So I like to think that I'm the version of Giovanni that is just better and still hopeful. I cannot stress enough how much I hate the way that Blaine is modeled in the game. What they use for his sprite outside of the battle is so not at all what you picture Blaine to be, and not even anything remotely close to what he looks like in battle. It's just so dumb. But again, I'm going to have an absolutely monster Nidoking here with access to Surf and Earthquake. I'm going to be able to walk through Blaine with absolutely no issues whatsoever. Now, I did skip Sabrina because I wasn't really sure how I was going to be able to deal with her. So now that I've finally gotten to the point of no return, I have to face her if I'm going to finish this game. Now, I do have quite a bit of a level advantage, being pretty much at endgame, having defeated every trainer that I've come across, and now all that's left for me to do is to finish off Sabrina. Again, Payday is not the most successful move, but I like my money, right? So I'm going to continue to spam paydays, even though it gets my Persian knocked out, right? Because if anything, Giovanni's the kind of guy that pursues cash over everything. We got a Venomoth, which Venomoth is a weird Pokemon to me. Very weird choice for Sabrina to have, to be honest, because it doesn't really learn. Oh, I guess Psybeam. Okay, so Psybeam kind of tracks a little bit. I was confused why the Venomoth was there, because it's not really a Psychic type, it's a Bug type. Now we have just the Alakazam left, and this is going to be a problem for me, right? Because my fastest Pokemon is going to be Persian, but when speed doesn't work, you're going to have to use strength instead. Again, we're going strictly headcanon here, but I always felt, psychologically speaking, is that Giovanni realized his plans were foiled. And he returns to his gym to try and rethink about his purpose as a trainer, right? Why did he get into this in the first place? At some point, Giovanni, as a trainer, would have wanted to be a Pokemon champion, and yet he fell just short of that and fell into criminal enterprise instead. He has all these resources, right? He has the ability to generate cash with no problem, right? Infinite money hack. And even a guy with all the money in the world still isn't able to achieve his dreams and falls short of that. I always find that that's interesting, right? To me, that provides a little bit of insight. And maybe I'm getting a little too analytical and psychological here for a children's game, but the fact remains. I'm going to sit here and pretty much one or two shot every single one of his Pokemon because I am just slightly higher leveled, just slightly faster, and just slightly stronger. And because I have moves that are effective, I'm able to go through. Rhydon, even though he is a higher level, that crit Bubble Beam takes him right out. I probably could have stayed with Nidoking, but I was really trying to make sure that I go first, so that way he can't use Fissure. Now, if you've watched a video on my channel before, you know that Lorelei is always the part where my video starts to fall to pieces. So Lorelei has water types, and what I meant to do was actually start out with my Persian because it has electric types. But because I was stupid and I left my Nidoking in the front, I was hoping a Stab Earthquake at neutral damage would do enough. It didn't. So we do have that handy dandy Thunderbolt, and we are able to outspeed all of her Pokemon. And realistically, even though my special stat isn't particularly high on Persian, I should be able to two-shot almost everything that she has. I get really lucky with that confusion and that I don't deal any damage to myself, but now I need to find a way to deal with Jinx. So Jinx, because it's Ice type and Psychic, is not going to be bothered by the Thunderbolt. So I was hoping that I'd be able to outspeed and get a slash off, but I get lucky with the dig and I'm able to knock her out that way instead. Again, I just want to waste Lapras's time here. The single Ice Beam knocking out two of my Pokemon puts me in a bad spot. It's okay, knocking out three of my Pokemon in one shot, and so now it's all down to Persian. Persian is going to outspeed Lapras, but Lapras is able to do just a little bit less than half. I was really hoping that that slash would be a little bit more and finish, but another two shots and I'm able to get through Lorelei. Now, I had this weird bug, and I'm convinced that I purchased revives, but they're not in my inventory. So even though I'm able to get this win, I actually have to restart my run because for some reason there's no revives other than those max revives, and there's only two of those, so I'm not going to use them and burn them now. So I tried to record video evidence of what I was talking about, but it turns out that because I was playing on a gamepad and not my keyboard like I usually do, I was actually hitting B instead of A to complete my purchase, so I didn't buy any revives. So I sat there trying to replicate this bug over and over again, and I couldn't, and it turns out I'm an idiot. Now, in my frustration of being a moron, I continued to be an idiot by not taking Nidoking out. This time he doesn't get knocked out, but it does put my Persian in a significantly more dangerous spot. I can't let Persian be knocked out because all my other Pokemon are going to get swept by either Jinx or Lapras. So I have to hope that I can get a little bit of damage here, maybe finish off one or two, and then use these potions that I have stored up to heal my Persian back to full. If my Marowak gets knocked out here, I can just throw Persian out with no concern. Now, this dig not hitting, and obviously that's stupid to do when you're confused, but I was just trying to get it knocked out, but the withdraws aren't going to do anything to the special attack, so Slowbro can withdraw as much as he wants. But I'm also going to spam a payday. Does that mean anything? Absolutely not, but I'm going to take that cash money. Jinx is out, and I'm hoping that I can outspeed. I don't. I should have learned my lesson from last time. I dig. No crit this time, so I don't one-shot Jinx. So now I'm in a scary spot. I have 2 Pokemon left, but Jinx is pretty low health. I think with the Slash, yeah, land the crit, knock her out. Now I'm just left with Lapras. A couple of Thunderbolts should do the trick. The critical hit is huge. She crits me back, but because I outspeed, it doesn't matter. So if I had actually used or pressed the correct button, I still would be able to walk through Lorelei. Now I have my revives. I'm able to bring my Pokemon back to health, and I'm on to Bruno. For this battle, I actually do want my Nidoking out in front because I have access to Ice Beam, I have access to Surf, and I have access to Earthquake. All of those things are going to completely devastate Bruno. Now, with his fighting types, I am going to go with Stab Earthquake just because I know that'll do some damage. Surf doesn't get that extra boost, but it is such a powerful move that I can knock Hitmonchan straight out, and I don't have to worry about it. Hitmonlee, I don't really know what to do here. None of my moves are going to be super effective. They're all going to be neutral. So I know it's going to take me at least 2 turns, so I just go with Surf. Onyx, again, I can use Ice Beam, I can use Surf. I do want to conserve my Ice Beams, though, because it's my only super effective move against Lance. So I'm going to stick here to the Earthquake. I'm going to stick here to the Surfs. I lied. I'm going to try and use an Ice Beam. 1 Ice Beam's fine, right? Somehow Surf does negative damage to Machamp. It takes 4 shots for me to take him out, but I do clear Bruno with just my Nidoking, proving who the real Strength King is around here. Now, you can call this cheating or gaming the system or whatever you want to call it. I just call it intelligent. In Generation 1, you may not know this, but Earthquake, even though it shouldn't hit Gengar, because Gengar eventually gets Levitate ability, that does get eventually taken away, but that lands. So Earthquake is super effective against your Gengars. So for yet again, I'm going to have this huge type advantage against someone that should be difficult for me. This shouldn't hit, but I'm able to one-shot Haunter pretty easily. I'm going to be able to one-shot the Arbok because all of this is same type attack bonus and super effective. Now Gengar does outspeed me, but it doesn't matter. I get a crit on top of the stab and on top of it being super effective, just for the added insult to injury. And now I am on to Lance. I am going to use an Ether here just to make sure I have enough of everything that I need for this battle. Ice Beam and Earthquake being obviously the 2 huge moves on Nidoking. And I can jump right into fighting Lance. Now, again, what I should have done is paid attention because I know that he starts with Gyarados. I've played this enough that I know I should know this, right? And so that means that I should have Persian out because the Hydro Pump one-shots the one Pokemon that I was keeping specifically for this instance. Then I turn around and I one-shot his Gyarados right back. That nice little revenge kill. So instead of trying to battle this out, I do have those 2 max revives. This is the time I'm going to use that, right? I leveled up Nidoking. I put a lot of investment into him specifically for this battle. Now Slash with these crits is going to do huge damage to the Dragonair, and I'm able to 2-shot. So even though I waste a turn with an item, I'm able to 2-shot the Dragonair and then put his second Dragonair in danger. The Hyper Beams finally catch up and knock out my Persian, but now I should be able to do one more, but I forget that when Hyper Beam knocks out in Gen 1, they don't have to spend a turn recharging. So I thought I wasn't going to take any damage. I was like, oh, I'll just do a free attack. And instead, I get an unnecessary bit of damage. I don't lose anything for it, but it's still annoying. Dragonite goes for agility there. I hit the second Ice Beam, and it's curtains for Lance. So, all in all, really easy run for me here. The only challenge that I particularly ran into would have been Sabrina, but I just did it out of order, right? As long as you're smart about how you approach these things, Giovanni very easily can become the Pokemon champion. And again, you can say, oh, well, Persian's not really his ace, and Persian was a crucial part of my run. But I don't know, man. Check any of the Pokemon media. Any image you search of Giovanni, anytime you see him in the anime, he's with a Persian. Persian's the real ace. I don't care what the games say. The Ice Beam does a lot less damage to Pidgeot than I thought. It does take 2, but 2 Ice Beams are effective. Alakazam, I should have switched here to Persian because Persian would be able to outspeed. I thought I'd be able to one-shot, just eat the damage and then one-shot with Earthquake, but it wasn't that effective. With the full restore, I'm going to go with a Dig. Alakazam recovers and fails because there's nothing to recover. Misses because I'm digging. And now, because I have the speed advantage and I significantly weakened Alakazam, I can finish him off on the revenge kill. Bubble Beam is just short of taking out Rhydon. And again, I'm still going for paydays. It doesn't matter that I'm not going to play the game after I finish this battle. I'm still trying to get that cash money. If there's one thing it taught me is that greed is everything. The 3 Bubble Beams are there. Now, I could have used Surf, would probably have been more effective, or an Earthquake. But honestly, I like this idea of fighting with my Persian, right? This is my ace. I should remind them that Persian's a great Pokemon. I'm not low enough in health right now to really justify the full restore. So I'm going to wait and first heal Nidoking, and then I'll go for the full restore here. Now that Stomp did huge damage, and I was really hoping that the Slash would finish off Exeggutor, but it didn't. 2 more Stomps, my ace is gone, and now it's time to bring out the Sand Slash to, you guessed it, land critical hits with Slash. This Exeggutor ends up being extremely annoying just because of its ability to put my Pokemon to sleep, but because I'm still high health and he's going with barrages instead of stomps, I'm going to use the opportunities he's giving me to heal up my Pokemon. Used a max revive on my ace, and so even if he does finish me off here with a grass type attack, which would make sense, although I'm not sure he knows any, if he does finish me off, then I can swap right back out to one of my stronger Pokemon. I did want to feature every Pokemon because I had a little bit of bias because my last run, Sabrina, I didn't use my Hypno through the entire Elite Four run. And so I was like, you know what? Every Pokemon deserves a feature. And now we've got his ace versus my ace. It doesn't matter that he has such a huge level lead. Unfortunately, the Thunderbolt doesn't quite do enough damage. The Max Potion here will heal up. He goes Withdraw, but again, that's not going to do anything against Thunderbolt. But I stupidly go Slash, thinking that crit's going to be huge. It does do good damage. I think the Thunderbolt would have been the right move. Either way, I've defeated Gary and his dope jacket, and I am now the champion, relegating Gary back down to the 8th gym where he belongs, and Giovanni as the champion that he should have been, and not that loser in Team Rocket that he ended up becoming. Alright, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you appreciated it. Comment below what video you want to see me do next. I have a couple ideas, and on my Sabrina video I had a couple of really cool comments. So I'm going to try and check that out. But if you want to see a specific challenge video, drop it below. I do record these videos in advance of the gameplay footage. So it may take me a week or 2 to respond to your request, but I promise you that I will get around to it. Thanks again so much for watching, and I will see you next time.